Time for Dart Talk. Brought to you by thedartzone.com. Stay in the zone. Thedartzone.com is an official Cosmo distributor and Windy City Fabricators, America's premier fabricators of orthotics and prosthetics. And Redwood Darts, America's newest tungsten darts. Stand straight and tall and hit them all. Redwood Darts. And now, here are your hosts, Mystery Mark and Steve P.
Okay, welcome to Dart Talk.
Hello, hello.
How you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody.
January 7th.
Yes.
2015. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
Sure.
Dart Talk brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks, Windy City Fabricators and Redwood Darts. We're going to wrap up the World Dart Championship.
A lot of good darts thrown.
Oh, my gosh.
Big matches.
Just a blur of triple 20s, you know, and I watched pretty much every second of it. Although, you know, I kind of took one for the team. I was kind of tired at one point. And I actually did kind of doze off for about 6 legs, but
Well, that'll happen. That's all right.
yeah, so
I'm sure you're caught up.
We'll get to that. We'll give you guys an update on Lakeside. Bad news, good news kind of thing. As far as Lakeside went, actually, I was watching it on Ustream today, and you know,
The old Ustream.
and let me tell you, there were some familiar names in the chat there, and you know,
That's nice.
You know, 3 years ago, this is what your 4th year,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You're starting your 4th
Pretty
year.
much.
I'm finishing my 4th year in the middle of. And people are still saying, like, the same old stuff. And it's like, has anything really changed? So at the end of this show, I want to kind of talk about where we are and compare it to where we were when I started this show.
4 years ago?
I don't know where. I don't know if we're better off or not. I think the jury's still out on that one. Anyway, Dart Talk brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
Did I say that
Yes, we
already?
did already.
All right, the
Another plug.
DartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. 2 for 1. We'll charge them extra.
Yeah.
Let's get the disclaimer out of the way.
The views, opinions, rants, and rampages expressed on Dart Talk do not necessarily reflect individually or collectively those of our sponsors, co-sponsors, wannabe hosts, hearing-impaired critics, or those with a penchant for attitudinal dysfunction. We at Dart Talk strive to provide you, the listener, with an educational, entertaining, and fun-filled experience each and every week. If after the show you, the listener, find yourself feeling uneducated, unentertained, and or bored, we at Dart Talk consider that your own problem.
And we wish you luck with that. Got a little Lakeside graphic in the background there. I think it's from the Daily Mail, something like that. Let's start with the Dart Championship because, you know, we said last week I think it was going to be probably the best darts anybody's ever going to see, and I don't think they disappointed. I mean, of the 8 guys that played in the quarters, I would say 6 of them played absolutely stellar. And then the 2 guys that didn't play stellar still averaged like in the mid-90s. It just shows you, though, I think, you know, my impression is that the standard has changed.
Sure, we've talked about that.
Yeah, the standard is better now than it was, and that's why. I mean, Phil Taylor would probably say it's because, you know, he had a nightmare day on double 8. But to be honest with you, the way Taylor used to win was he was the only guy that would consistently be on a finish after 9 darts, leg after leg after leg. And then he would, like, kind of dawdle along and, like, throw a ton and leave 64
Well,
or
he's the guy
70
that would
and take
always
it out.
average over 100, but nobody else could.
Well, yeah. But now it's to the point now where you have to average closer to a 12 darter. And I think even though Van Gerwen lost to Anderson, I mean, I think the first 7 legs he won were all
You're just
12
giving
darts or
spoiler
less.
alerts out left and right, aren't you?
Yeah, okay. Well,
Van Gerwen averages 105 and then says he's got stuff he can work on. I mean,
yeah, it's because the standard now, and I think among the top players, the expectations that they have of themselves is different. And I mean, it's all for the better. You got more guys working harder at the game, so it stands to reason that more guys would be playing at a higher level.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
When Phil was dominating everybody, I'm not sure that I don't think you'll ever convince me that like the top 16 guys were putting in as much effort as Taylor was. I mean, you hear about, these guys are like running around doing exhibitions, what have you, and Taylor's like, practicing 8 hours a day, stuff like that. I mean, now you've got younger guys that are really, working really, really hard at it. And some of these, younger guys, that start out as teenagers, I mean, they don't even have jobs. All they do is play darts.
Yeah.
I mean, they ought to be pretty good.
Well, you would think.
And
it is their job.
It's kind of irritating because, some of the stuff that people say in the chat room, I mean, you can't take what people say on Twitter and Facebook to heart really all the time. But it just seems to me that nobody says, look, there aren't too many Americans who are putting full-time hours into darts.
True.
And I don't think any
it's
of them
hard to
are.
do.
Well, I don't think any of them are. I don't think even, the guys that are, self-proclaimed professionals and darts as their profession, I don't think they're practicing 10 hours a day.
No.
I know for
well,
sure.
I mean, do you think you could be able to practice even 6 hours a day?
I don't know. My motivation is kind of gone when it comes to practicing because what am I practicing for? I'm not going to practice for league.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I haven't even finalized my schedule for this year. So, I mean, I know I'm going to be playing in Huntsville in February, which is, coming up pretty rapidly.
Yeah, it'll be soon.
And then the CDC, I can hardly bring myself to say it.
How much, when you practice, though, religiously, how many hours a day do you think you put in?
When I was practicing a lot, I was putting in minimum 3 or 4 a day, and some days more. I mean, at my age, I'm not 20. So my arm doesn't always snap back. So when I'm practicing, it's kind of like the first hour and a half doesn't even count.
Right?
No, because I'm trying to kind of you're trying to get loose. And some days, you're in the bullpen and you need extra pitches kind of thing, So, but the guys, if you could put 3 or 4 hours in a day consistently, you're going to be relatively sharp.
Yeah.
You got a full-time job. That means you've got, basically, kiss the wife, have dinner, play till you go to bed, till, I mean, it's got to be hard. It's got to be hard. And I don't think too many people appreciate the sacrifices that, the good players make, especially the ones that have, families and,
right.
all sorts of other responsibilities because you think about, how much time my dad spent taking us to football practice and basketball practice and baseball practice and la-di-da-di-da. I'm sure, a lot of people are like that when they have kids that are of that age, between 7 and 15.
Yeah.
Right? Running them around to soccer practice, whatever. I mean,
if you think about it, the level of darts that these guys play at, the amount of time they have to put in, I mean, it's their sport. It's like football players getting to the locker room first thing in the morning and spending all day there, and coaches and players and, first guy at the baseball diamond, they're there all day, and those are the guys that tend to be
they don't all
best.
do it, though.
No.
Like I just saw a thing on with Matt Leinart and Vince Young talking about the greatest college football game ever played. Like, yeah, right. But, Matt Leinart, what an idiot. Oh, well, I just wanted to go, college was so much fun. I thought I'd do it for another year. And it's like, yeah. Was it $20 million worth of fun?
Yeah. And then,
because I guarantee you, if you gave me $20 million, I would have way more fun than he had in college his senior year.
Sure.
Way more fun.
Egotistical to the fact that he was going to have a great NFL career.
But they were talking about how, they kind of took things for granted and they didn't really work at it. And I think a lot of talented players have that.
Sure.
Have that to fight against.
That's the thing.
The curse of talent.
When you're good from the time you're 8, and you're better than everybody, and you go to the best college, and you're playing in the highest championships of whatever sport, it doesn't matter. It's hard to get motivated. It slowly whittles away the higher you get in any sport, the talent level. There's obviously less and less people, but the talent ends up, once you get to the top, being the same. And people don't realize that all of a sudden, wow, some people don't make it into college. They were great in high school, but they don't make it in college because all of a sudden they get whittled down. But then the people that make it in college and are still elite athletes don't realize that in their mind they're like, well, this is easy. I'll make the pros and I'll be great. I don't have to work at it. Whereas you get Peyton Manning, who was great all the time, and realize that he still had to. He's probably one of the hardest working players in football, and he has kept himself as an elite player.
Well,
it's a mental thing.
Yeah, it's mental. Yeah, it's all mental, and I think darts especially is mental. And I'm looking at some of these younger guys, and I'm like, I wonder how they're going to handle it in the long run. Like somebody said last week in the chat room that Cristo Reyes is going to go to Q school, and I'm like, that'll be interesting. Mm-hmm. Because I guarantee you, anybody watching these matches that's a player, especially if they were watching it Lakeside today, are like, well, geez, I could do better than that. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks that. Everybody thinks that they could do better.
Until you get there.
Well, yeah, but, there's so few spots to get there. It's like, look what you have to do. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Witt made like $6,000. I guarantee it costs more than $6,000 to run around all the tournaments you need to run around to qualify to get there and get your $6,000. So, it's a zero-sum gain.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it from a purely financial standpoint, mm-hmm. which, of course you shouldn't do. Let's run down the PDC. We left off
I'll try
last
and do it
episode.
in order this week.
That would be helpful. I might be able to actually point it out to you.
Yeah.
We left off before the quarters. So
right.
New Year's Day there were 2 quarters. It was Van Gerwen played Robert Thornton.
Correct.
And what was the other one? It was it Peter Wright and Gary Anderson?
Peter Wright and Gary Anderson, yes.
Okay, well let's start with the first match there.
Van Gerwen is a winner 5-2.
MVG,
This is where he threw 105.
Yeah, that was a pretty interesting match insofar as Thornton's stats look really, really good, mm-hmm. but I never really thought he was going to win. This set format where it's like, of all things, don't miss doubles on your own throw and don't miss doubles in the 5th leg because it's
not a good recipe for success.
Way to ruin. Yeah, and Robert Thornton found that out.
They both were reigning the trip 20s.
Well, it was Thornton was funny. Thornton would miss, and then he would throw like an immaculate ton 80, and then he would throw like, he just wasn't consistently in there. And it was weird too because he had a lot of first start triples, and he didn't follow it up with anything, mm-hmm. which showed that he was a little bit off compared to how he had been playing earlier. And it was funny, they were rattling off his match times. The matches he played before he got to Van Gerwen, people would say it was an easy draw, but, his matches were like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. He was really never pushed. Mm-hmm. And Van Gerwen just had so much confidence in that match. It was, pretty much like I had said earlier. It's like, well, if I need to hit this, I'll hit this. And he hit it.
You average 101 and hit almost 50% of your doubles, and you don't even come.
And you're
you
not
don't
close.
Even sniff it.
Yeah, and that was the kind of thing where it's like Taylor used to win with stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Taylor used to win with he'd be at 170 after 9, 167 after 9, throw a ton, and take out what was left in 14, 15 darts.
And the guy didn't even have
every now and then he'd miss, and then you throw the occasional 12 dart around the other guy's throw, and you win. Mm-hmm. Here, it was like Van Gerwen, he's throwing 12s on his throw and then trying to break you. It was really something watching Van Gerwen in that match. And I picked Van Gerwen to win. And watching that match, I was feeling pretty smart.
Sure. I
was feeling pretty smart. And so what was it, before we move on, so what was Van Gerwen's doubles percentage in that match? Because he was complaining
47.5. He had 19 out of 40, so he was right one dart away from 50%.
You know, and you're throwing, I don't know, 13, 14-ton 80s and all these ton 40s and stuff, and it's like, and you're hitting 50% on your doubles. I mean, how do you lose?
But he's got a lot to work on. Well, not a lot.
Yeah, that's what he said.
He didn't say a lot.
In the post-match.
Yeah.
Yeah, his tune's going to change in 2 days.
Well, sure. Yeah.
All right, and what was the second match? Was Anderson and Peter Wright? Yeah, it was funny. The where are
no
we on
problem
time?
for Gary
because
Anderson.
I'm going to rip on Wayne.
We're due for a break.
Are we due for a break?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to rip on Wayne Mardle when we come
back. Oh, one more time. All right.
You're listening to Dart Talk with Mystery Mark, Steve Anselmo. We're wrapping up our PDC coverage, and then we're going to move on to Lakeside, and we'll be right back.
The views and opinions expressed on Dart Talk are those of the hosts. They in no way should be misrepresented, misinterpreted, or made to claim that the universe is against you, your family, your city, or the darting community at large.
Hey, back for the second quarter of Dart Talk, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks, Windy City Fabricators and Redwood Darts. Let's get to the bunting match before I really rip on Mardle. What did we leave behind there?
The bunting match. We're on Gary Anderson, Peter Wright.
So let's do this one first, and then I'll rip on Mardle.
Okay.
When we get to Bunting's match with Barneveld.
Well, Gary Anderson did not have a problem. He took care of him 5-1.
Yeah, it was funny. Peter Wright never looked comfortable. He didn't look comfortable.
He threw a lot of tons, but that was about it.
Yeah, but they weren't like there weren't a lot of good tons. My definition of a good ton is when your third dart is in. A bad ton is when your first dart is in. Right? He threw a lot of bad tons. And
so if you went like fat 20, triple 20, that's a good ton.
That's a good ton.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's same with ton 40s.
But when you go trip 20, fat.
Yeah, that's a bad ton.
Right.
And a bad ton 40 is like trip 20, right?
One that you misses by 2 inches that almost hits the double.
See, a couple of years ago, I really thought Anderson was, if he could just finish, was the best player on tour.
Oh, you've been saying that for years.
I mean, because when he really gets it going, it's just so automatic.
He didn't even finish well in this match.
With the trip, no, he really didn't have to either.
Right.
Because he outscored him so badly that he had, extra darts at a double here and there. And Wright never pushed him. I think there was, at one point, Wright really blew a set. Like blew the fifth leg. And instead of it being 2-2, it became 3-1, and then it was like, it was it.
Yeah.
Wright was convinced, and it was just a matter of time. And as much as I like Peter, he didn't play anywhere near as well as he did the year before. So it's still a good showing for him. I'm sure he'll still make the Premier League. I think he's still, he protected his ranking because I don't think he had much money from 2 years ago to defend. But at the same time, it's weird. You can see in the body language, and if you see these guys play, match after match, event after event, you start to notice, hey, his body language is a little off. Hey, he doesn't look comfortable. His rhythm isn't normal. It struck me like he was deliberately slowing himself down to not get sucked in because Anderson is so quick, and he's thinking too much.
Didn't work.
Yeah, didn't work.
I like Gary Anderson's quote after that. He says, I need to play well against Michael to beat him, but he'll need to play well to beat me as well. And most people just stop at the first part of the quote, and he's got confidence right there. He's like, all right, well, I know I have to play well, but guess what? So does he. And most people don't continue it that way.
Yeah, he, for everything that he's been through, he had personal things going on in his life the last couple of years that apparently aren't affecting him anymore. I was really impressed with the way he played against Wright, because it wasn't just that he played well. He just seemed so focused. He didn't really care what Wright did. Mm-hmm. I mean, he just, got on with it. And he finished well. And I was shocked. I was just shocked how well he finished.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to watching him on 11 darters turn him into 18 darters. I mean, just, chasing doubles around the board and getting this look on his face like, oh, here's, here I go again.
Yeah.
Kind of
What's
thing.
going to happen when the match is tight?
Yeah.
And I'm throwing doubles like this?
Yeah, so after that match, I remember thinking, well, geez, they're all in trouble. They're all in trouble this week. Okay, so that was the second quarter.
Right.
The other two quarters was Vandervoort and Taylor.
Correct.
And then Van Barneveld and Bunting.
Mm-hmm.
So Taylor, Vandervoort, I don't know. They were saying Vandervoort had a bad back. I didn't really see it. Vandervoort played okay. Taylor did not. At one point, I think Taylor missed 9 darts at a double in the 5th leg and still won.
Taylor averages 100 and shoots 40% of his doubles, and he didn't play well. That's
well, because what happened was, I think Vandervoort, if Vandervoort would have won the leg, he would have been up 3-1. And he was pretty far behind. It was Phil's throw.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the 4th set. And, after 12 darts, Phil's on 32. It's a typical, Phil Taylor leg, right? He's on a 13-darter, and he whiffed it. And Vandervoort was pretty far back. He was in, the middle 200s, and he threw, a 60 or a ton, probably a 60. Taylor goes up, whiff, whiff, whiff. And then Vandervoort throws something to get to a finish. Taylor goes up, whiff, whiff, whiff. And then I think Vandervoort left himself on 96, missed the 20, and then chucked one at the double 18 that really wasn't that close. Mm-hmm. And then I think set up 56. Whatever he did, then Taylor, on his 3rd dart managed to hit the double. And I was just sort of like, man, oh, man, he's not handling the pressure really well. But, Vandervoort let him off the hook. That made it 2-2 or 3-3. Oh, it might have made it 3-3. And then Taylor just, that was it. Vandervoort was done after that. And, Vandervoort, I know I called him a klutz and everything. He does look kind of klutzy. But, he, if his first dart was off, it was off by a lot, and he couldn't adjust. He was following in the good ones, and, so he threw his share of ton 40s and ton 80s, especially in the first 4 or 5 sets.
Mm-hmm.
He actually scored pretty well, and he finished better than I'm used to seeing him finish. I think mentally he just kind of ran out of gas there. And I don't know, it's weird
that's
sometimes.
Easy to do.
Well, sometimes, you get these legs where you're out of sight, you're dead, the other guy starts futzing around, and you start thinking, well, if I wouldn't have screwed up my last round, I'd be there. And then you screw up the round in your hand. And then you're like, well, now I'm really dead. And then he still screws up. And then you're like, oh, my God. So, I mean, the only lesson there is don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up. Try to throw that late ton 80 and throw in that little extra pressure on the guy. Mm-hmm. Maybe get a whack at it. Don't be chucking.
You never know.
Don't be chucking.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the other guy's got to hit the double, right?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you never know. Phil Taylor's going to miss 9 darts at triples or double 16. I mean, if you would have thrown 1 ton 80 in there, and all of a sudden you would have had maybe 6 darts at
or
that
just
double.
ton.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I mean, people overrate the value of a fat 60 or a good ton.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, throwing them in the 1 and the 5 Please don't do that.
Yeah, well, nobody wants to do that.
That's no good. But, I mean, if you could just throw 3 counts and 5 counts and then work a 7 count in there, generally you're going to have a whack to finish something. 101, 121, the kind of outs that you should be working on anyway.
Is this the Mardle rant match, or is it the next one?
The next one.
Yeah,
with Bunting and
Van
Barneveld, which I'm not going to talk about the post-match because it was too weird.
Oh, Van Barneveld won 5-4.
Yeah, he did. And it just...
And these two guys both average under 100.
This is where I just wanted to wring Mardle's neck. Because, okay, I know Bunting's an Englishman, and I know Barney's Dutch.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're in England, and the announcers are England. There's no Dutch announcers. But, I mean, literally, Bunting, if Bunting wants to throw 12-gram darts, okay, and he hits his flight, and it deflects into a fat 20 where maybe it would have been a triple.
He throws 12-gram darts?
Yeah. He throws 12-gram darts.
How do you get those to the board? Those are like
he
bar
throws,
darts.
Well, yeah, but you throw them hard.
Well, yeah.
Well, he whips them in there. And but here's the thing. Every time he deflected out of the triple 20, Mardle's like, well, that's unlucky.
Okay.
Every time he Robin Hoods it, well, that's unlucky. And finally, I'm like, okay, so then if it doesn't deflect out and it is a trip 20, then he was lucky.
If everything else is unlucky.
So all his ton 80s are lucky and all his ton 40s are unlucky. Mm-hmm. Not once did I say, well, do I hear these guys say, well, that was lucky. If you throw a ton 80, you're awesome. If somehow it deflects out, you're unlucky.
Yeah.
Well, what about the ones that deflect in?
Right. That's, yeah.
Because apparently that never happens.
If you leave two
in Wayne
outside
Mardle's world, you can only be unlucky or skillful.
If you leave two
that's
outside
a wonderful
a double
way to look at the world,
and knock one off your darts and into the double, that's
just
skillful.
Killing me. You throw it on the wire. Oh, that was unlucky.
Right.
Oh, well, if it went in, yeah, God. And I have said this to people. I have hit winning doubles and walked back from the line saying I got lucky.
Sure.
Didn't feel right. It wobbled in. Whatever.
Oh, yeah. It like floats up and you think it misses. It kind of just like sinks into the double or whatever.
I have not talked to this guy in years, but I guarantee you, Jay Barlow, every time he looks at me, when he sees me in a tournament or something, he's thinking about this double I hit against him in Vegas like 4 years ago. It's the best double shot in the history of doubles, where I had 2 clear it. I was on 32 or something, and I hit the wire dead center between the double 8 and the double 16. It was in the 8, but it tipped up where the barrel completely obscured the double 8, and I had 16 left with 1 dart in my hand. I moved over to the next board because there was a little sliver between the barrel and the wire on the left, and parked it in there. And the chalker was just like, my God, it's in. And I'm like, really? I kind of walked up and looked. And it was like one of the luckiest shots. You could stand there with 3 million darts and not hit this.
Right.
It was lucky. Okay? I've had darts that skeeved out of my hand and corkscrewed in the air and somehow went in. Mm-hmm. Okay, I come back. That was lucky, and everybody thinks I'm lying. No, that was lucky. Sometimes darts that go in are lucky.
Sure, I agree.
But not in Mardle's world.
No.
In Mardle's world, you're the greatest player on earth, and you're unlucky. And I got so sick of hearing it, and it was match after match after match, and I just wanted to.
How is it unlucky if you
fling the iPad like a frisbee?
If you Robin Hood a dart, you're aiming at the same area. It's not unlucky.
That's why God invented the cover shot. Okay,
right.
Hey, ton 77s work too. In case you're curious. Darts falling out of the board. Maybe you should have thrown it harder or roughed up your points. You're a professional dart player. Unlucky. Please. I mean, Mardle, man, I'm telling you.
Well, he lost. That must have been unlucky.
Well, Mardle didn't play.
No, not
Mardle.
Well,
no. What happened to Bunting was when they got right down to it, he lost basically one leg. He got broken right away on his throw, and Barney played really well in the last set.
All right.
Now, Barney trying to make out with him on stage after the match made me very uncomfortable, and I shut it off.
Okay. I did not see that.
Well, here's my take on it. And for people that didn't see it, I'm not sure you're even going to get it on YouTube, but basically after the match, they were kind of doing like a joint interview, and Barney's like, "Do you mind if I take the mic?" And he literally took the mic and started addressing the crowd, and you could tell that, here, I don't know quite if a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but basically, there is a certain amount of gamesmanship that I've seen, and sometimes it's subtle. Remember the time when I was talking about how when Darren and Larry played that doubles thing, they kind of the opponents all went to Darren and tried to walk him off the stage, and they kind of left Larry over by the water. I think that was gamesmanship. Here, he's like, Bunting just lost this crushing match where he played his guts out and came up one leg short, or 5 darts short, whatever the case may be. And all you want to do is get off the stage and go pound the wall, and you can't do it because you're in front of the camera, right? You want to get off the stage and go like whatever you need to do to vent and start getting over it because it hurts, right? Barney won't let him off the stage. Barney keeps with this bear hug, and he hugs him, and then they're walking away. Then he hugs him again. He's walking away. Then he keeps him on the stage, and he's going to give a speech to the crowd. And he's saying all wonderful things. We should have him in the Premier League and la-di-da-di-da. And I'm just sort of like, Bunting, he's making it worse for Bunting. Right, he's prolonging the guy's agony, and I'm wondering if he's doing it on purpose. I'm wondering if Barneveld wants to make sure he remembers this loss for the next time he plays him because he's a threat. That's all I could think of.
I don't know.
Is that too cynical?
Yeah,
am I being too cynical?
I think a little bit.
I don't know. If you saw it, man, it was really weird.
Yeah,
I thought he was licking his ear. He kept hugging the guy.
I could think, though, when
Raymond's
you're saying
an emotional guy,
when you're saying nice things about the guy, that could possibly help. It's not going to. It could help in the long run for him because he'll sit back and reflect and go, well, the guy said some nice things about me. It makes it easier to take. If he believes him, it's easier to get over it. I don't know.
It was, Raymond, played tough.
Post-match was cringeworthy.
Yeah, I was cringing. Yeah. Somebody in the chat room said it was cringeworthy. Yeah. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to shut it off. But this whole thing about, he's unlucky and la-di-da-di-da, I'm just, Mardle needs to go play in the BDO. He was sitting in the audience today, and he had this look on his face like, well, I could beat those guys.
The only problem is it's hard from an announcing standpoint. So, or I know when you throw a dart, you come back and say that was lucky that went in. But from an announcing standpoint, you don't know it was lucky.
No, well,
you know what I mean?
No, well, that's true. But, if it's always unlucky and never lucky,
Sure. But, I'm just saying it's hard to say that somebody was lucky because you're assuming
that doesn't stop me.
Well, from an announcing standpoint.
That
doesn't mean everything else is unlucky. That's ridiculous.
You can see darts where you missed one, and I've seen this on the PDC where a guy misses like a half-inch high, and then the dart comes in, brushes his flight, and goes in.
Sure.
Nobody ever says that's lucky.
Yeah.
I've said it a bunch of times. I got a little lucky there.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to.
But nobody believes me when I say it.
Right.
They think I'm just, I'm just saying it. But you get lucky, and I'll tell you, that ninth dart that Phil got in to beat Vandevort didn't look like it flew very good. It went in the board at somewhat of an obtuse angle, and I was like, well, that was lucky. He just sort of, he lengthened his follow through a trifle, and it happened to go in. And what are you going to do? Go to tops, Phil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's a stubborn man. So anyway, that was my Mardle rant. Where are we on time? Are we good?
Yeah, we're due for a break.
All right. Well, okay. We'll take a break, and then we'll be back with the semis and the final of the World Dart Championship. You're listening to Dart Talk with Mystery Mark C. Ponce Hillman. We'll be right back.
Dart Talk agrees to adhere to the Geneva Convention in treating fairly its prisoners in their war against lackluster darting administration and behaviour.
Okay, back for the second half of Dart Talk, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks, Windy City Fabricators and Redwood Darts. Jeff Dotson, our musical director. Melissa Frank on voiceovers. Aaron on the disclaimers. Sam the intern on all our mistakes. And thanks, everybody, for listening. Don't forget, you can check our website, darttalk.us. You can find us on iTunes, on Stitcher.com, on TuneIn.com. The archive's on the website, and we're also on Facebook and Twitter. Mm-hmm. And where else are we? Pinterest.
When's the last time you tweeted something?
It's been a while. I don't know. Twitter's weird.
I've never been on Twitter in my entire life.
Twitter's just weird. Twitter's hard to handle. It's not really popular as much in America as it is like in Europe and stuff like that. So we should probably tweet more. Just leave it out. So the semis, as they we're talking about we're talking about the World Dart Championships that finished over the weekend. Came down to basically you couldn't have drew it up any better. I mean, whoever was seated aside, you had Taylor and Barneveld playing against each other for the umpteenth time, and then you had Anderson and Van Gerwen.
Right.
So you had probably the most experienced, well-rounded players in one semi, and then you had like the most dynamic scorers in the other one. And I'm trying to remember who played first. I think Anderson and Van Gerwen played first. And it was kind of funny the way that match went. I've compared, PDC matches to basketball insofar as, it's like a lot of scoring, a lot of scoring. Yeah, how
momentum changes?
Yeah, well, not so much momentum, but you go on runs.
Mm-hmm.
You go on runs, and the format, especially in the World Championship, which is the longest format they play, you can weather somebody's run until you get a run of your own. And that was never more evident than the Anderson-Van Gerwen match, where
Anderson won 6-3.
He won 6-3, but, Van Gerwen was in there, I think, the first seven legs he won were 12 darts or under.
Mm-hmm.
And it was never, you never thought Van Gerwen was out of it because he's capable of making these runs of 3 straight 12 darters and stuff like that, which is kind of the new standard now. I think the new standard is, can you throw 5 out of 7 legs that are 12 darts?
That's right? A pretty high standard.
It can't get much higher.
Right, no.
And it's a matter of how many 11 and 12 darters are you going to throw in a match. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter of how many 15s anymore, right? And, I saw so many triple 20s watching on, was it Saturday? Yeah, watching on Saturday. I just saw so many triples that it was like, wow, you threw a ton? What happened?
Reading the recap, it's nothing but 12 darter, 13 darter, 14 darter, 12 darter, 13 darter, 14 darter.
It was really something. And again, I've seen Anderson score that well. I've just never seen Anderson put it all together. Mm-hmm. I was listening to Randy Johnson talk about his career. They had the Baseball Hall of Fame elections.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how, it was really hard. It was hard for him as a 6'10" guy to learn to throw strikes.
Okay.
And people didn't appreciate. Everybody figured that it was an advantage, right? Being that tall. And it wasn't for him. It took him a long time before he could really, kind of master his craft to the point where he could throw strikes.
Consistently,
then,
in order to be
obviously,
successful.
Then he became dominant.
Right.
And you may be seeing this.
Yeah,
with
the
Anderson.
throwing 100 miles an hour wasn't the difficult part. That's easy.
Yeah, I mean the hitters are petrified; they're going to get drilled. But you look at a guy like Anderson, who's always had the ability to score. There's your 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
Right
now, it's can you finish, and that's your control.
And once you figure it out, look out.
And that's really, the way Anderson played against Van Gerwen, I was really impressed. And Van Gerwen eventually crumbled. Mm-hmm. Van Gerwen got to the point where he realized he had no room to miss a double. And he's not used to that. Van Gerwen's used to getting extra rounds at doubles because he outscores everyone, and he didn't outscore Anderson. What were the stats on this match?
Well, Anderson was 50% on his doubles, and Van Gerwen was 38% and only threw 3 more doubles. Had 3 more double attempts.
Who had 3 more?
Van Gerwen.
So Van Gerwen had more shots at doubles.
Yeah, only 3, though.
Okay.
But, they both were Anderson was 102, Van Gerwen was 101.
Yeah.
But Anderson threw 12 more ton 40s and that's basically the difference.
Well, yeah, because they're not counting ton 37s. Mm-hmm. So, but there was one leg where, Van Gerwen whiffed on 3 on his throw, and I don't know if that was the 5th leg or it was I can't remember which one it was, but it was a great match to watch. I mean, it really was. And they both, they played really well. It was just a matter of, when he was under pressure, Van Gerwen missed his doubles. That was really what it came down to. And he was under pressure the whole time. Because Anderson was always on him.
Right.
Even if, Anderson would start a little slack and start out 60 ton, when Van Gerwen would start out with, ton 40, Anderson would throw a ton 80 late and be right on him. So every time you turned around, the guy's, he's 20 points behind you, mm-hmm. And it caught up to him. It caught up to him. He could never shake the guy. It reminded me of one of those tactical mile races where somebody's on your shoulder until the final turn, and you could, you try to kick him and whatever, and he's still there. And at some point, he blows by you in the backstretch, or he blows by you in the final turn, and you don't have enough to keep up with him. I mean, that's what it was like. It was so much fun to watch. These guys just flying in triples. I mean,
yeah,
something else.
And then in the next one, Phil Taylor, easy work of Van Barneveld, 6-2.
Yeah, it was easy, but it wasn't quite as easy as it looked. What happened was, Van Barneveld would play okay, and he would have, a couple of good stretches, but when it came right down to it, if he needed to hit a double, it wasn't there. And Taylor managed to hit whatever he needed. What was Taylor's doubles thing on that?
48%, 19 out of 39.
And most of that came once he got the lead. And I still think Phil's, probably the best front runner. Well, one of the best front runners. I mean, when he's ahead and, he breaks you, and now all he's got to do is hold to get 2 sets ahead.
Tough to beat.
Yeah, tough to beat. And Barney didn't really look convinced that he was going to beat him. Barney didn't look confident like he did in the last set against Bunting. I mean, he really, the way Barney played the last few sets against Bunting was like Barney of old, but that guy didn't show up against Taylor.
Well, Taylor in the 7th set throws a 13, a 14, and a 12 darter. I mean,
yeah, so he's averaging a 13 darter, and that's kind of the new standard.
Yeah,
the new standard now is you don't need that 15th dart. Mm-hmm. 7 count, 7 count, 7 count, 81 out. That's an 11. So if you butcher the out a couple of times and come back for it and you hit it on your first one, okay, 13 darter. But I mean,
you got to match that, put the pressure on the guy to sit there and make him, now all of a sudden, instead of being able to relax into a 15, 16 darter because you're so far ahead, now all of a sudden you're on a 12 dart finish and you're looking going, well, now I have to hit it.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point now where you saw this with Barney. I mean, I think you could see him pressing early in legs. trying to hit ton 40s and stuff, where it used to be you can kind of go like 60 ton 60 and then throw a ton 40 and still have a chance. It's not like that. Not at this tournament anymore. You have to be on it like right from the beginning of the leg and not stop. And I'm telling you, it was really something to see. These matches, if you guys
not
missed
stop
them,
for the amount of legs they play too. I mean,
go on YouTube and you watch these guys, pound 7 counts for 2.5 hours or an hour and a half, whatever it is. I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it. How many ton 80s did those guys throw? They set a new record.
13 and 8.
13 and 8. They set a new record for ton 80s in the tournament, and then Anderson broke Adrian Lewis' record for ton 80s by a player in the tournament and smashed it. He had that record beat in the first set of the final.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about...
Anderson and Van Gerwen went through 20 combined and 21 combined for Taylor and Barneveld.
Yeah. And Barney had more, right?
Yeah. 5 more.
And again, Phil's attitude that ton 40s are fine. I'm going to throw my chubby barrels, and his cover shots, especially in the final, didn't impress me much like normal. Like 5, 6, 4 years ago when Phil Taylor went down for a 19, he was like 80% hitting a triple, and he was throwing them into the 7 a couple of times.
Really?
And yeah, I figure that's got to be pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's fatigue. It could be mental fatigue. I mean, the concentration, you have to keep it all the way through. And I don't know, I think Wright fell victim to thinking too much. I think Taylor, well, we're going to talk about the final. So the final became Taylor and Anderson. Where are we on time? Can we finish this?
We could do this.
Let's finish the PDC. Yeah, it was, Taylor leaving himself on bogey and leaving himself on bogey and leaving himself on bogey. Is catching it caught up to him against Anderson. It gave Anderson a couple of legs.
Well, Taylor loses 7-6, so they go to the deciding set. But
yeah, they go to the deciding set. And
why
basically,
does Taylor, in the beginning, winning the diddle, defer?
He does it all the time, and his thinking there is like, well, the first set's kind of rough. Everybody's you're trying to get settled, so I'll warm up on your throw, and if I happen to break you, great.
Okay.
That's all that's about. And because the last set is win by 2, whoever goes first becomes, in theory, meaningless.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Right? Because,
sure.
Okay, you hold yours, I throw mine, and
mine.
we're going to go to a tiebreaker in 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And if I happen to outthrow you, then we won't get there. So that's
and then
always...
If I break you first, then all the pressure's on you because now it's...
Yeah,
right. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you want to jump right on top of him, and it didn't work out against Anderson because Anderson started out playing really, really well, and no nerves, and it looked like whatever he had going in the practice room and whatever he had going on Saturday, he just kept right on going. He played a great first leg, and trying to think if he was up 2-0, and then Taylor had to come back to tie it, and then he got the lead again, and then Taylor came back to tie it.
It was 2-1. It was 1-1. Then it was 3-1 Anderson.
Yeah, it was 3-1 Anderson,
and then it was 3-3.
Then it was 4-3 Taylor, and that's when the weird stuff started.
And then Anderson won the next 3.
Yeah, it was. There was some weird stuff. This is where Anderson's darts were falling out of the board, and then the announcers are blaming the board.
Was it unlucky?
No, it wasn't unlucky. He was pulling his darts.
But Mardle didn't say they were unlucky?
No. Oh, yes, he did.
Oh, he did.
He said yeah. Well, of course it was unlucky.
Of course.
All those ton 80s weren't luck, though. Just the ones that missed. It was weird. At one point, he had 120 in the board through a third dart and knocked them both out and ended up with zero. Got a 0. And then somebody in the crowd said something to him, and it was weird. All of a sudden, he just had this look on his face like, I've had it. I've had it with all this. I'm just going to throw my darts, and then he just rained triple 20s on Taylor for the rest of the match. I mean, it was really quite impressive. I think Phil said in the interview afterwards that he really beat me up that last set. I mean, Phil gave him a little help. I mean, I've never seen Phil Taylor miss so many darts at 888. I think at one point his percentage was 20%.
Really? Ooh.
Which means if you have 3 clear at double 8, you're not out.
Mm-hmm.
And between that,
he didn't shot just under 40% for the whole match for doubles.
Yeah, between that and leaving like 166 and
Taylor.
169 and 162.
Taylor shot almost just under 33%.
Oh yeah,
He had 82 shots at a double.
82 shots at a double. And what did Anderson
had
have?
66.
So Taylor had 66,
26.
70, 16.
Or I'm sorry, 16 more.
16 more darts at a double, and didn't hit any of them.
Yeah,
that's how you lose. That's how you lose. So I mean,
he out averaged them by three points, 97 to 100.
So he averaged 97.
Phil
Anderson
Taylor
did?
averaged
Oh, okay.
Taylor averaged 100.
Huh. Well, okay, all those darts on the floor hurt his average.
The zero doesn't help.
Yeah, the zero didn't help, but there were other ones. There were other ones that hit the floor, and he was unlucky. But it was funny. In the past, when things didn't go good for Anderson, you could just see this look on his face, like, well, here we go again. It's not meant to be. I'm going to lose to this guy, and his body language would give it away. This time, he was like, enough's enough. I'm putting my foot down, and pedal to the metal. Just played spectacular darts after already having played for a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
And Taylor wilted. And, so in the last set, Phil, having given the throwaway, now in the last set, Anderson goes first, holds with, I think, like a 13-darter. Taylor goes up and throws his normal, after 12 darts, I'm on 32, no problem. And he whiffed. And they were all just drifting to the left.
Yeah.
And his last dart, he had that same extra long follow-through like he did against Vandervoort, where I said it was kind of a lucky one that went in, and this one didn't go in. It was right on the wire.
Yeah, 3 double 16s.
Yeah, 3 double 16s, whiffed them all. And Anderson broke them, I think, like 56 or something he was sitting on.
Yeah, double 18 to win.
And then, Phil chucked them in the third. I'm trying to think of the third leg. Anderson started with a ton 80, and Phil, his first start was about an inch below the trip 20, and I don't know if he managed a ton out of that, but he just chucked his last 3 darts, and, it was over. Kind of anticlimactic. The guy's made 17 finals. No, he's won.
No, he's made 20.
He's made 20 finals, and he's only
17.
lost 3.
Yeah.
And this one,
the other stat they said was that Phil Taylor has never lost a semifinal out of the 25 World Championships he's been in. He's made 20 finals.
Yeah.
But he's never lost a semifinal.
No, because he loses, he's been losing early to,
right.
He lost to Chizzy, and he lost to Michael Smith.
20 out of 25.
He lost to Webster, but it was all like top 8, top 16.
20 finals out of 20 finals out of 25 events and 17 wins.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, they were both they walked on with these huge smiles on their faces, and I was thinking, yeah, it is kind of like the Super Bowl, because you're in the final, right? That work is done. Now all you got to do is win the final. And Taylor was kind of joshing around with him a little bit after, but and Taylor's always really good in front of the camera. He's kind of aware. He's pretty glib, and he's aware of what he's saying, and is usually over the moon and what have you. But I don't know. Gary's beaten him before, but it's different. Gary's now a world champion, and they were talking about how it changes your life and all that, and for the rest of his life, he's a world champion, and to be honest, he deserved it. I was happy for him because he played better than anybody else. And that's the one thing I really like about the PDC's format for the World Championships. It's you don't luck into this one, right? You're going to earn it against the best players in the world. People get geeked up for it, and it was just awesome. It was just awesome watching it.
Well, congratulations to him.
Yeah, so congratulations to the Flying Scotsman.
Mm-hmm.
Jill doesn't understand the nickname. I said it was, well, instead of the Flying Dutchman, he's the Flying Scotsman. It's like, I don't think people are giving a lot of attention to these nicknames. All right, we're going to come back, and we will give you a Lakeside report. And you're listening to Dart Talk Mystery Mark Steve Ponciano. We'll be right back. One more quick break.
You are now and forevermore warned that you consume this show at your own risk, and that Dart Talk cannot be brought to justice in any court or by any government, including and not restricted to the grand spaghetti monster of the Triple 20.
Hey, back for the fourth quarter of Dart Talk, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks, Windy City Fabricators and Redwood Darts. So, Lakeside.
Lakeside, yes.
Not
as high quality of darts.
Well, it just seems anticlimactic to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, here you've got a tournament where, you know, basically, you know, if you're one of the better players, you're leaving for the PDC, right? Bunting's gone, right? Christian Kist is gone. And James Wilson was out early. The guy who played so well last year and lost the final to, it was Alan Norris, who I think is also out. So the field's not as deep. There's still, like, you know, really good players, but it's nothing like they've had one guy so far average almost 100.
Mm-hmm.
And you've never even heard of him. So, yeah, it's not just that the standard of play is less. I mean, you know, the crowd's smaller.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, even in the British press, you know, they're talking about it as being, you know, some sort of a quaint kind of throwback sort of event that, you know, well, isn't it nice that we still have this kind of thing? I mean, it doesn't have the cachet that it did now that the PDC is so big. There's some article on the PDC website. I didn't read the whole thing, but they set a record for ratings.
Yeah, I saw that too. I didn't read it, but
that doesn't surprise me. It was so fantastic to have an event like that, but then to follow it with Lakeside is just sort of like, geez. You know, and we had from Canada was there. There's three Canadians, right. And Jim Widmer. Jim Widmer's profession, because that seems to be the British obsession.
Oh, really?
Is they say Jim Widmer, his profession, he lives in New York, and then that's it.
That's all they say?
Much as I dislike Wayne Mardle, they had Ted Hankey as some, can I say half-ass?
Sure. You just
analyst. Thing is just such a come down from the PDC. They do everything compared to the PDC. The TV coverage isn't as good. The announcing isn't as good. The play isn't as good. I mean, none of it is as and great players. It's just, you know, it's just a step down.
Right.
And you know, at this point, it always will be. It seems to me. I did
it's not gonna.
It was funny. I saw the draw. You know, Widmer had to play a play-in. And he won the play-in, and I didn't get a chance to watch the match, but I looked at the stats, and the stats were not impressive at all.
Right, you were reading them off earlier.
And I was looking, because if he got by his preliminary round, he had to play this Dutch guy, Rick Hofstra, which he had to play literally twice the last time he was there. He had to play him in like the Winmore Masters qualifier, and then in the qualifier for Lakeside or something like that. So he lost to the guy twice in the same weekend that he went to England. And I'm like, well, he's got to be sick of this guy.
Yeah.
But he got by him. He averaged, I don't know, like 84, which is, you know, okay. It's not anything to write home about, but it's all right. It's a decent standard.
Sure.
It might have been 82, because I think when I saw the stats, I said to myself, you know, Scotty Kirchner, for all the criticism he's getting, averaged higher.
Mm-hmm.
You know, playing.
Plus, it's only the second round. If you continue to improve, and you know, you got to.
Well, he had his chance today to continue to improve, and you know, he's playing Martin Adams, who's won this thing. I don't know how many times, 4 or 5 times. Oh, by the way, Sam the intern made a mistake. You want to correct it?
What's that?
On Taylor.
Well, yeah, he only won 16.
Won 16.
He was going for
17th. Okay.
So he's 16 out of 20. So
get yourself an abacus there, Mr. Intern guy.
Yeah. We got bad intel from our intern.
Yeah.
It's my mistake for reading it that way, but yes, so he won 16 out of 20.
It's I wish the announcers would kind of mention how part-time darts is for most of the guys in America. There's somebody in the chat room saying, "Oh, he's one of the dominant players in America, and he only averaged 79." It's like, well, I wouldn't go by that. There's plenty of Americans that'll average higher than 79. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many are going to average 95 if you play a long format. But if Americans dropped cricket and just played long format 01 in a year or two, you'd have plenty of guys averaging in the middle 80s.
Probably.
And some guys averaging in the 90s. I mean, I know what kind of talent we have. It's just misspent.
Yes.
If half your tournament experience is playing cricket and you want to go compete against people that only play 501,
and only play long format.
Then you're at a huge disadvantage.
Sure,
yeah,
absolutely.
It's just like anything else. I mean, if you're a pool player and you play 8-ball half the time and you go to a 9-ball tournament, okay. All the guys that just play 9-ball are going to have an advantage over you, I would think.
Sure,
right?
Absolutely.
I don't know what other sport to compare it to, but
it's still pool, but it's a different game. You're right. The rules are different, blah, 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 everything. Yeah, I agree.
And you still got these Americans saying somehow cricket is some superior game. Like cricket is harder. Cricket is easier.
Well, we've
01 is way
had that
hard.
Discussion, but I agree with you. I mean,
it's this groupthink delusional idiocy that keeps American darts from moving forward. There's too many people who think this, and because they think it, they're going to keep playing cricket, and because they keep playing cricket, they're going to be inferior 01 players.
I think,
and if you're an inferior 01 player, you're going to have a hard time going overseas playing 01.
I think it's a possibility, though, because,
how is this not evident to everyone? How is this not
cricket.
obvious?
Everybody enjoys cricket because they start playing it at the bars, and it's a bar game, and they want it to be fun, and they enjoy it, and they don't play that much 501, and then they kind of delude themselves into thinking, well, cricket's tougher, and
it's like the World Series of Poker. You play Texas Hold'em. They have Omaha events. They have pot limit events.
Yes.
There's other things you could play for fun. Hey, AC Doocy Wild.
Right.
Yeah, great. Let's have fun. Have a beer. But when push comes to shove, you play the real game. You're playing Texas Hold'em.
Mm-hmm.
When push comes to shove, you're playing the real game. You're playing 01.
Yeah.
Straight in, double out.
Yeah.
Everybody got that because I'm getting irritated. Okay? This isn't even up for debate. I'm just letting you know what the facts are, okay? If you want to keep telling yourself that cricket is so hard because I can go for the 18 and the 17 while you're going for that, you're deluding yourself.
Yeah.
You're just totally deluding yourself. And I'll tell you why 01 is harder to win. Look at anything on the ADO tour, on the Diddle tour, and look at all the people that win 01. Who's that guy? Who's that guy? Who's that guy? But in the cricket, it's always the same guys. Because, once you're a tournament player and you know all these strategies and all the locals only know how to chase, of course you're going to win.
Okay. All right, I get it.
Of course you're going to win.
Yeah.
This strategy is so hard to understand. I can't remember who it was telling me, I win lots of cricket matches because the other guy doesn't know this strategy and that strategy. Oh, okay. Maybe if they read the pamphlet, they would know it, and then they would beat you. So you're not a better player. You just got more experience. It doesn't work in 01. Look at these guys play 01, leaving themselves bogeys and throwing it the wrong double and la-di-da-di-da. It's like, hey,
Sparther's got a good point. He says cricket players think that 01 players only shoot at the triple 20s.
Oh, does that kill you?
Yeah.
That's all I do. Watch me play 01. Yeah, I've never thrown a cover shot. I just throw trip 20s till I'm down to double one, and then I go boop, double one. That's how I play.
How many cricket players have said, well, what's the fun in just shooting at the triple 20 all the time?
That's all they do. Ever play like a tournament guy who's got the 20s? How many does he throw at the 20? It's absurd that what these guys tell themselves.
Right.
I swear to God.
I know.
I just want to... Sorry. Getting emotional. It's just because I'm tired. It's been really, really cold here, and the cold wears me out. It makes me tired, and I'm old and cranky now. So you guys stop it with the cricket.
Cricket must be harder because the Ray Chesney is paying more for the main event cricket singles than the main event 501.
That has nothing to do with it. That has to do with how many people they expect will show up and play.
When he said it, though.
Well, no, because... the Saturday singles pays more than the Sunday singles because you get more people out, so you could pay more out. So if they had the 0-1 on Saturday and the cricket on Sunday, the 0-1 would pay more. That's how it works. I wanted to go to the Ray Chesney. I love that tournament. But the weather is not going to cooperate. I'm not driving through ice to get there.
So we're slowly running out of time. Just to recap.
Okay, let's
Lakeside.
Recap. What are we recapping? Lakeside. So Jimmy Woodmayer lost to Martin Adams 4-0.
Right.
And
in the first round or the second round?
Third round.
Third round.
In the top 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So he got a round further than he did last year.
Mm-hmm.
He got by Hofstra. He did not play his best game by any stretch. Jeff Smith is going really good. Jeff Smith will be playing tomorrow in the top 16, and Jeff has a chance. Jeff has a chance to actually win this thing because I don't see anybody playing all that good. I think for the players, I think it's really sunk in that it's like, geez, that's a tough act to follow. They ought to move Lakeside and have Lakeside before the PDC.
Mm-hmm.
I think they would end up looking better doing it that way.
Be like having the Scottish Open before the British Open as opposed to the other way around.
Well,
like the Scottish Open's a precursor for the British Open.
It is before the British Open.
That's what they should do.
Well, because the guys come over, all the Americans come over, and then they used to play them both.
Right.
It's like having the Queen's Club grass tournament before Wimbledon. So you get used to playing on grass.
Exactly.
You get a warm-up tournament.
Right.
Well, I mean, Lakeside's not going to be a warm-up tournament, but, I mean, they've only got 40 guys or whatever. I mean, it's a smaller field. They could get it done.
Mm-hmm.
They could start it December 1st and be done before the PDC rolls around, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why not do that? I mean, dealing with the BDO, I mean, I don't know. As far as somebody was asking about they dropped the 365 rule or something. It's like we were saying all along. This is just the ADO and the BDO trying to figure out how to stop the PDC from doing anything in North America. Congratulations to the ADO for screwing up American darts. Appreciate it.
Basically.
So now that the PDC pulled out, they don't need the rule again. And if the PDC comes back, they'll throw something else in there because
come up with another
this
one.
is how these people operate.
Mm-hmm.
They're very selfish, and they only care about their own little stupid organizations, and they don't give a crap about the players. So this is what you get. Did I make that clear?
I think so.
Okay. Well, hopefully things will change. We'll see. We'll be back next week. We'll wrap up Lakeside, and maybe we'll have a report from Philly. I'll try to get somebody who went to the Ray Chesney. You guys should all go, by the way. It's this weekend, and it's such a great tournament. And, it's kind of like the first tournament of the year, so everybody's kind of
geeked up about it.
Got new crayons. It's like opening day kind of thing.
Darts are all
it's
clean,
really fun
new
to go
flights.
to. It's a well-run tournament.
Polished and
Yeah, that's how it is. And then we start league next week, I think.
We do.
Do we?
Yes. Yeah.
They had the captain's meeting tonight?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know.
No,
yeah.
We're going to have some fun.
I'm sure
league.
the captain. Yeah. So
we'll have some fun with a little league.
Last week you said something
show.
about one of your goals this year was to get on the board every day.
I've done it, and not long, but I've done it. I mean, I've gotten up there.
So I figured yesterday, I'm like, that's a good idea. So I started yesterday was my first day.
How'd it go?
Awful.
Did you throw in points first and everything?
Oh,
Make sure the flights were on?
I threw them with my toes and my head. It was bad.
Okay. Well, get all the bad darts out of the way.
So that was
now.
my first day. So now I got to, maybe even when I get home tonight, even if it's just 15 minutes, so just to try and get on there every day and do something. And otherwise I'm really going to embarrass myself next week.
Remember how we used to throw darts after the show? I mean, that was always kind of fun.
Yeah.
Maybe we should start doing that. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back again. Are we set on 8:30 now?
I would say yes.
Yeah, from now on,
it's the easiest because otherwise
it's really hard.
By
for
the time
I
get home from work and the time you pick me up, it's impossible to not rush.
If there's any traffic at all, we have to run around.
Yeah,
just to get so 8:30 makes it a little easier for us.
So, but it's just way easier just to say 8:30 and be done with it.
Because actually, we were ready to go at 8:17.
Yeah,
and we waited 13 minutes.
But that's a better alternative than trying to make it
right.
8.
So we'll just say 8:30 for now. So we'll be back next Wednesday at 8:30 on the 14th.
Correct.
We'll try to get somebody from Philly, and we'll try to. We should have an announcement next week too, by the way.
Sweet.
And we'll wrap up Lakeside. And we're all going to root for Jeff Smith. Look on Ustream. if you want to watch the match live, it should be starting about 1 o'clock Central.
Okay.
For the BDO. We'll say that. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will Dart talk to you next week. Everybody in the chat, thanks a lot, and safe travels, stay warm. And we'll Dart talk to you next week.